The farming skill in Hypixel Skyblock is one of the most fleshed out and complicated skills in the game, and one that you definitely want to have maxed out. Now, not only is farming one of the longest grinds in the game if you want to include farming, it also can make you tons of money on your way to 60 or even past that. So that's why in today's video, we're going to be going over everything that you need to know about farming and how to progress as fast as possible and what gear you should be using and everything else you might want to know. Now, as with any other guide on this channel, we are going to be starting out assuming that you are farming level 0. So what you're going to want to do is whenever you spawn in the hub, run over to the right, and if you've played Skyblock at all in the past, you will recognize these wheat fields. You're basically just going to want to farm this wheat up until about level 10. It's completely up to you. There's no specific level that you need to unlock the garden, which is where 99% of your farming progression is going to happen. But this is a good way to make some money at the very, very start of your profile, and you also get your wheat collection up. And you can also come over and visit the farming islands over here, which have a bunch of other crops. You need farming level 5 to fully access everything here, and that is about it. Now, when you hit Skyblock level 5, you'll go to your island and you'll see a message saying that a visitor has appeared, and their name is Sam, and it'll give you the coordinates of where they are. Usually, if you're just starting out, your island will be small, so they won't be hard to find. But this is what Sam looks like. You'll be able to come over and talk to her, and she will give you a lot of dialogue that you have to listen to, and then she will let you warp to your garden. So, once you spawn in your garden, you will see Sam standing over here, ready to talk to you, and you'll have a bit of a tutorial over on the right side of your screen. You're basically just going to want to follow this through until you get to the point where you have cleared a plot by yourself and then served a visitor. Now, once you have done that, we do recommend, if you have 100,000 coins to spare, that you actually buy yourself a garden scythe. Now, this is a significantly better version of Sam's scythe, which he gives you for free, and it's only about, right now, 90,000 coins. So if you have the money to spare, I do recommend getting this. It just makes clearing other plots a lot easier. Now, once you have your plot cleaned, you'll be able to come over to the desk, and you'll see here on the Configure Plots menu, you can click on any of these, and the only plot that you're going to be able to set down for your first one is going to be wheat. Now, once you click on this, you'll be either prompted to plant these seeds from your inventory, so if it's in your sacks, or you can come over here if you're on a regular profile and buy it from the bazaar. So right now it's about 20,000 coins. You hit that, you hit start paste, confirm paste, and once we come over and look here, we'll see that it is forming a wheat farm. Now it will do this, it will slowly paste this across this entire plot. I think a plot is about 160 blocks. Now once you have your first wheat plot pasted down, we have a couple of stats that I want to talk about before we go any further. Now the first stat I want to talk about is your farming fortune, which you can find here on the gathering stats and then right here. As you can see, I have 1,131 farming fortune, and what that means is every time that I break a crop, I have a 100% chance to get 11 of that crop, and then an extra 31% chance to get a 12th. So the way it calculates that is for obviously every 1 farming fortune is just 1% chance to get another crop. So if you have 100 farming fortune, you will be getting 2 crops every single time. And if you have 150 farming fortune, you will have 2 crops every time with a 50% chance to get a 3rd crop. Now the other important stat is your farming wisdom, which can be found here on the wisdom stats. Come over here to farming wisdom, and this is basically just a multiplier for the farming XP that you gain. So as you can see, I have 83 farming wisdom, so I get 1.83 times XP whenever I gain XP. So if I were to get 1 XP from breaking a wheat, it would actually give me 7.3, which obviously is not accurate. Because this gives more than 1 XP per. Now, the first armor sets you're going to want to go for are both in the wheat collection. As you can see over here, the first one you're going to want to get is at collection level 3. You'll see the farm suit armor, which is about 100 coins per piece, so basically free, and it gives you 5 farming fortune per piece. And then eventually, at some point, very soon, you'll want to upgrade to the farm armor chestplate, which will give you an extra 10 fortune per piece, and it also has gemstone slots unlocked, so we will talk about that later, of course. And as you can see, it's about 100k per piece, 200k. Very cheap. You can probably craft this yourself, and I recommend getting this as soon as possible. Now for a pet, I recommend that you go for an epic rabbit pet, which as you can see on the auction house right now is going for about 600,000 coins for a level 1, or you can try to get like a level 80. This one's going for 5 mil, and this will just give you a bunch of farming wisdom. And also, if you are just really looking for fortune, you can always grab yourself a bee pet, which as you can see gives plus 30 farming fortune at level 100 legendary. This is also very cheap. But I personally recommend getting the rabbit because the wisdom is very important in the early game. Now you can also feel free to come over in the hub and grab yourself a uncommon farming XP boost from Zog right here. He will sell it to you. It costs 60,000 coins and you will get a 20% pet XP buff on your farming pets. So you can apply that to your rabbit if you want. It'll just level it up a little bit faster. Now the reason that we recommend using a rabbit pet instead of a bee pet for farming wisdom in the very early game is because whenever you level your farming skill, you will actually be getting farming fortune with each level. So if you're leveling up more often, you're actually going to end up gaining more fortune over time than if you were to use the bee pet. Now as with any other content in this game, I do recommend that you have a god pot and a cookie buff active at all times, as this is just free buffs. And while it is just a small upgrade, you can also buy yourself a fruit bowl off the auction house for about 1,000,000 coins, and then you can sell it back afterwards. This actually profits you 250k. But what it does is if you click on somebody with each profile name, which is kind of hard to explain, but basically every profile has like a different fruit. Mine is mango. And you can go around and click random people in the hub, and once you have every type of fruit collected on the fruit bowl, you will get +1 permanent farming wisdom. So that'll make your entire journey to level 60 1% faster. I recommend you do that. It's literally a free 250k. No reason not to, it just might be a little bit tedious. Now let's talk about your farming tool. Now depending on the crop that you are farming, there are different types of mathematical hoes or axes that you can buy from Anita from participating in Jacob's contest. These are also purchasable on the auction house, so I would recommend doing that. Now if you were farming something that uses a hoe, I would recommend using the T1 version of it, so that obviously for wheat, that would just be the T1 wheat hoe, potato, carrot, anything like that, netherwort. And then if you were farming something else, then you just want to go and buy the mathematical variant of it. Actually, I don't think they're called mathematical, but as you can see, pumpkin dicer, fungi cutter, cactus knife, melon dicer, these are also all buyable on the auction house. I recommend doing that. Now, if you can't afford these, you can also always come over to the desk right here and speak in the Sky Mart. You'll be able to see in the farming essentials, there's something called Advanced Gardening Hoe. This costs 25 copper. It comes with the replenish enchant on it, as well as 10 farming fortune. This is an alright hoe that you can use if you cannot afford a T1 farming hoe with replenish on it. It is a little bit cheaper. Personally, I would recommend just putting the money into the T1, but that's completely up to you. Another thing that I should mention is that the replenish enchant can sometimes bug out if you do not have an agronomy sack of some size. Now, what an agronomy sack is it just collects items like wheat and whatever, any other farming components, and it puts them into a sack in your inventory. You can get the small agronomy sack at Wheat Collection 7, and this is the craft cost, as you can see here, pretty cheap. It's a little bit of a steep collection at 10,000, but once you have this, definitely get this. It'll stop your replenish enchant from bugging out, and it is a very nice thing to have in general. Now, you are also going to want to put a reforge on your hoe, and obviously the easiest way to do this is to come over to the blacksmith, and the best reforge that you can get from the blacksmith to put on your hoe is the robust. On a rare hoe, it will be giving you +4 fortune, so it's alright. I mean, there are better reforges that we're going to get into later. As you can see, I have blessed on here, and we'll talk about that later. Now, after you have all of your gear bought and ready to go, I do think that your wheat plot should be fully grown. If it isn't, just wait for it. And I would recommend farming this at least just once through, because it will give you a bunch of crop milestones as well as level up your garden. And then you can start putting down other plots and vary up the crops that you're farming. Now, I would just recommend doing this. You could also just do visitors to level up your garden. Now, assuming you are a normal profile and not an Iron Man, you can come over to the desk here and buy as many plots as you are able to afford. Just buy them in the cheapest order until you eventually have as many as possible. Obviously, I have all of them bought. You don't need that many, but you do want to have, at least at the start, a plot of like each crop so you can hop around pretty often. And I would not recommend making any real like AFK or like good farms yet. As you can see over here, I have a carrot, wheat, and potato farm that spans like the entire plot of the garden, all 5 plots. You don't really need to build anything fancy like this yet. It will help in the future, but at least for now, the default plots are going to work just fine for you. This is easily, like, I still use this on my Iron Man, you know? And also, I'm not taking my own advice here, but you should always be doing your visitors. You need to collect 10,000 of these to max out your Lotus equipment and your Skyblock XP, as well as they give you garden XP and copper. I'm pretty sure when your garden level is not maxed out, it'll be pretty cheap requests. Like, as you can see, I have melon blocks, but I think for you, it would probably be something like melon slices. That's not really a recommendation. If you're farming, you should always be doing your visitors. Now, while you're farming in the early game, your main goal is going to be to get to garden level 12, which you can do by leveling your crop milestones. Now, what this will do is give you 120% crop growth, as well as a bunch of other crop upgrades that you can get, a bunch of visitors, all of the pests unlocked. Now, earlier, whenever I mentioned visitors, I said that they give you copper, and the reason that this is profitable is because you can also come over to the desk, and you can see in the Sky Mart, most of the stuff here is actually bought with copper. So, if you don't want to use it for yourself, you are able to come in here and buy these things and sell them for profit. Copper is also used in your composter, which we will talk about later, to upgrade it. As you can see, each upgrade costs copper, as well as the fortune upgrades. Pretty much, copper is the currency of the garden, and you're going to need it for pretty much everything. I recommend keeping all of it for yourself for upgrades, but if you're really desperate for money, you're able to sell it and get some extra money out of it. Now, coming over here into the crop upgrade menu, I do recommend that you get each of these to at least level 5. They're very cheap, and they're just extra free fortune. If you get level 5, you get another 25 fortune in each crop, and it costs pretty much nothing, just a little bit of copper. But any tier is fine, and also, you do eventually want to get all of them to level 9 for the Skyblock XP. Now, coming over here to look at the composter, as you can see, this hopper here will open up the upgrades menu. These are going to be a lot more expensive than the crop upgrades that you can buy over at the desk, but I do recommend, again, getting these to at least like level 5. It's up to you if you use the composter. I personally don't, because I think it's a lot of effort. but it is good for Skyblock XP, and it's pretty cheap at the start. Now, the main ones, if you are looking to profit from the composter, are the main upgrades that you're going to want to look for are composter speed as well as multi-drop. These are the best ones. These will give you the most money. Just depends. The other ones kind of just depend on like how often you have to refuel and like how much it's going to cost you to fuel. Back over here to the Sky Mart, you will see the Sunder enchant, and this is just the axe variant of the harvesting enchant. This just gives you farming fortune. Oh, I just bought one on accident. But this is the farming fortune equivalent enchant, which can be applied to axes instead of hoes. So if you're farming something like cocoa beans, then you're going to want to get Sunder. Now, the next enchant we have is Dedication, and what this does is it is a enchant that can be applied to any farming tool, including axes or hoes, and for every crop milestone that you have on your garden of that specific crop, it will increase your farming fortune by that plus 0.5. Now, this goes up to Dedication 3 or even 4 if you buy it off of the bazaar. That is a special drop that we will talk about later. It will give you, I'm pretty sure, 1.5 fortune per milestone. This is a nice thing to have. I would recommend at least getting level 1, but level 3 is pretty cheap as well. The next enchant we have is called Green Thumb. This can only be applied to equipment, which obviously is the Lotus equipment, which is what you'll be using to farm with. This will give you extra farming fortune for every unique visitor served. This goes up to level... I almost just bought it again. I don't have enough copper. Now, this is a very expensive enchant. As you can see, I have Green Thumb 5 on all of my equipment, and this probably costs about 400 million coins total. I would recommend getting at least level 1 just because it's free fortune. It's like 5 mil per piece if you have the money to spend, but this is probably the least important of all the enchants here. Now, next, I want to talk about the Lotus equipment. This is the equipment that you're going to be using to farm for forever. You want to get the full set as fast as possible. It gives you free farming fortune, and it also will give you fortune based on how many visitors you served. As you can see, I've served 2,000, so I get an extra 12 per piece, which adds up to, 48 fortune. Very nice thing to have. Yellow bandana, which you can see here is the last item in the shop, can be applied to any pet, and it will just grant 30 farming fortune. This is the best early game pet item. It only costs 1 million coins off the auction house. You can apply this to your rabbit, so you can get fortune and wisdom from it. Final thing I want to talk about in Sky Mart is the bustling reforge, which as you can see costs 100 copper, and it can be applied to armor. Now, do not apply this to your farm armor if you're still using that. We are going to talk about better armor in a second, which you can get for yourself. So by now, if you've been in the garden for a bit, you should have been introduced to pests, but if you haven't, I will explain them for you. A pest is a type of mob that can spawn on your garden whenever you're farming, and once 4 of them have spawned on your island and they're all alive together, they will start to actually decrease your farming fortune, so you do need to kill these whenever you see them. For the most part, you're going to want to get most of your information over here from Philip and Pamela. They will explain it to you better than I can. But again, over in Sky Mart, we've spent a lot of time here. There's an entire pest section. You'll want to start out with the Sky Mart vacuum and work your way up. This is how you kill them. And while I cannot show you any pests because there are none on my island currently, I can demonstrate. You'll have the vacuum. Now, obviously, this is a maxed out one. But assuming that this farmhand was a pest, you would just come over to it, hold right click, and it will start to suck it up and it will die. There's another stat that I would like to talk about, and that is called bonus pest chance. This can be obtained in a couple of ways. As you can see, I have it just base value from the Pest Hunter artifact, as well as Wriggling Larva. And what this does, it's pretty much the same as Farming Fortune, just for pests. So whenever one spawns, I have like a 70% chance to get a second pest. So you can have more than one spawning at the same time. I'm pretty sure the current max is getting 3 pests to spawn at the same time, but that's not a 100% chance. Now, another reason that you're going to want to kill these pests whenever they show up is obviously, first off, because they drop crops. But also, the bestiary, whenever you level this up, will actually give you extra farming fortune. So in total, from all of my pest bestiary, I'm gaining 42 fortune just from killing pests whenever they show up on my garden. Now, there's a type of talisman that you can buy over here from Philip. It's if you click on the bottom left, the Pest Hunter's Wear. He will sell you up to a Pest Hunter artifact for just 100,000 coins. So this is pretty much a free epic talisman. And the only requirement besides that is that you kill a couple of pests. It'll show you whenever you come over here. I think the max is like 100, maybe 250. I personally think you should get this pretty quick. It gives you bonus pest chance, which is also toggleable if you don't want to have extra pests spawning on your island. And the final thing I want to talk about with pests is, again, over in Sky Mart, you can see you can buy yourself pest repellent, which will just decrease the chance for pests to spawn by up to 4 times for an hour, as well as a sprayinator, which can be used to spray different types of matter, organic matter, onto your plots, which can either attract certain pests, attract any pests. I'll show you, for example, one of them is Tasty Cheese. And this can be sprayed, and what this will do is it will attract specifically rats and mites. So if you're looking for specifically rats or mites, or any of the other ones, as you can see, this is the entire menu of garden stuff. Over here we have honey jar, plant matter, dung. These all attract different pests. You can just spray these on your plot with the sprayinator, and they will attract pests. Now, looking at the vacuums, as you can see, there's a bunch of different tiers of them that each upgrade from the previous. You're going to want to get the Infina Vacuum Huvarius as fast as possible. This does cost 20 million coins, but once it has maximum upgrades on it, which include the books that you can drop, as well as the Buzzing Reforge, this will actually give you the ability to one-tap pests. So they will have, I'm pretty sure 600 health is the default, and this does exactly 600 damage whenever you hold right click. So the main thing that this is needed for is for the worm pest, which is the earthworm pest, which whenever it is damaged, it has a chance to burrow and run around, and it can just be really annoying to kill. So then also this will just give you a bunch of other features like being able to attract certain pests with the disc menu. I currently have mine on slug for the pet. You can look through the item if you're more interested, but basically you just want to max out your vacuum as fast as possible. This is a very important item for killing pests. It'll track pests. I don't have any in my garden right now, but it'll show you like a laser, like it's Diana, to where the pest is. And it's just in general, a nice item to have. It also goes into your museum. It's like 5 museum rewards. Okay, so now we are going to talk about gear upgrades. Now, the first armor upgrade that you're going to want to make is you're going to want to get melon armor. And this can be found in the melon collection at level 9, 250,000. It costs about 2 million coins for the chestplate, probably about 4 million coins total for the set. And this is going to give you 20 fortune per piece, as well as a chance to get croppies whenever you are farming wheat, carrots, or potatoes. Now, instead of getting yourself the melon boots, what you're actually going to want to do is get yourself a pair of rancher's boots. And you're actually going to use these the entire time, because what these allow you to do is not only do they give you a ton of farming fortune, as you can see, I'm getting 85. They allow you to set your speed. So right now, I have it set to 93, because that is the speed I need to farm mine. But you can set it to anything, like, for example, if you want it to be 340, then you can set it to that. It'll limit your speed to exactly 140. So it's nice for setting up farms. We'll talk about that later, of course. Now, after you get your melon armor, of course, you're going to want to upgrade that into croppy armor, which is a garden-specific recipe. As you can see over here, this is the chest plate. It is upgraded directly from the melon chest plate into the croppy chest plate. Has a bit of a more expensive recipe, including 20 croppies, some box of seeds, and it's going to be 10 million for the chest plate. And then, of course, after this, you're just going to follow through this entire progression, because after croppy, we have the squash gear. Here, the dark green, the squash is directly upgraded from the croppy chestplate. And this goes for all of the other pieces. You're not going to make the boots though, unless you want it for the museum. You see the squash chestplate is about 17.5 mil, and then the final upgrade in the farming progression is the fermento armor, which is going to be about 40 million coins, directly upgraded from the squash chestplate. And this will be giving you the most farming fortune. It also has gemstone slots, and it allows you to get all 3 of the different rare drops while farming, which are croppies, squash, and fermento. And the other thing that I should mention is whenever upgrading, these pieces actually do have farming level requirements. So before you actually upgrade, just make sure you have the requirements. Crappie is level 30, squash is 35, and fermento is 40. So just make sure you're not making armor that you can't use. Now there are 2 potential reforges that you can put on this armor. The best reforge is, of course, the mossy reforge, which is going to run you about 44 million coins per piece of armor. And if you don't have 44 million coins to spend on a little bit of extra fortune, you can always just get bustling, which is going to be a Skymart brochure. This is going to cost 300k per piece, and it'll give you less fortune, but obviously it is significantly cheaper. So just use bustling until you can afford full mossy. It is a pretty significant upgrade. As you can see, I have full mossy on my fermento. You'll just want to get that eventually. Now earlier we talked about tools and how you should be using the tier 1 of each hoe, but at this point I think that you should have the maxed out version of every farming tool. Coming over to Anita once again, you're going to get a bunch of mathematical hoes, one for all of the different hoes, and then you'll need a maxed out T3 pumpkin dicer, a melon dicer, a cocoa chopper, a fungi cutter, and actually we'll talk about the cocoa chopper later because there is a different upgrade for that. And also the cactus knife. There's 10 tools in total, 10 crops. You just want to get all of them to tier 3. It's not that expensive. As you can see here, I have all of them. There are 5 different hoes, and then obviously the axes that I talked about, and the cactus knife. Now again, there are 2 different reforges that you can use on your hoes. I personally use Blessed, but we actually do recommend that you use Bountiful, because what Bountiful is going to do is it's actually going to give you coins whenever you farm crops. So I will show you. This is the Golden Ball Reforge, and it'll give you coins for every crop that you break. So over time, this actually adds up to a lot, and you will make more money farming with Bountiful than you were if you were to put Blessed on your hoe for the extra fortune. It's a very minimal fortune difference, so personally, I just recommend using Bountiful. I just have the Blessed on because I haven't changed my setup in a while. So next up, we're going to talk about pets. Now obviously, if you're not farming 60 yet, you could probably still be using the rabbit pet for the extra farming wisdom. Another pet that you could be using, which is bought from a Ringo in the Traveling Zoo, is the elephant, which will give you increased farming fortune. And then finally, the pet that you're going to want to use for the most of your time spent in the garden is the mushroom cow. And what this is going to do is give you farming fortune based on your strength. On top of the fact that it can give you more fortune than the elephant, it will also passively give you mushrooms to your collection. So as you can see, it gives you, when breaking mature crops, there is a 100% chance that a mushroom will drop, and this does count towards crop milestones. The amount of strength that you need to make the mushroom cow farming strength perk better than the elephant is exactly 1,160. So if you have less strength than that, then we do recommend that you stick to the elephant pet for now. Now, something you can do if you're looking for a little bit of extra strength to push you over that barrier of 1160 is you can actually hot potato book your axes. As you can see, well, I don't have it on any of my axes, so not the best example, but they are applicable to axes. So if you're struggling for strength, you can always apply 10 hot potato books and 5 fumings. I mean, that's an extra 60 strength, which is pretty much a no-brainer. I don't know why you wouldn't use that, just free fortune. Now, once you have 8 plots unlocked, so you can have pretty much all the crops down, you're going to want to actually buy yourself a green bandana. And what this will do is it will give you plus 4 farming fortune for each of your garden levels. It is a better version of the yellow bandana. It only costs 1.5 million coins, so it's an extra 60 farming fortune on a pet item. You're going to want to put this on your, I'm assuming your mushroom cow, maybe your elephant if you're still using it. It's just extra farming fortune, which is free to have. Now, there are 2 reforges that you can use on your equipment, finally. You can either get Rooted, which is the better reforge. It costs about 3.5 million coins. It can be bought on the bazaar from the Burrowing Spore. Just apply this to your equipment. Now, the other reforge that you can use is the Flowering Bouquet, the Blooming Reforge. It is a slightly worse version of the Rooted Reforge, but it does only cost 20,000 coins. It's just a reward from visitors. So I would personally just recommend spending 3.5 mil. It's not that much. It's pretty much just better in every way. Now that you have the appropriate gear to farm for the rest of your way to 60, let's talk about moving into what is called the Mega Farm. As the name implies, it has all 10 crops that you will possibly need to farm. You will need 2 complete rows of your garden cleared out, as this can either be the full left or right side of the barn. And what I mean by that is you can either have this entire 5 rows cleared or this entire 5 rows cleared. Now, this will be a bit pricey, but it is worth it because the presets are obviously a little bit beneath you now. They are not as efficient as it would be to build a massive farm that you can use all the way for the rest of your time spent in the garden. And just one last reminder, just make sure that you are garden level 12 whenever you do this, because otherwise the crops will not regrow fast enough. Now, there's no point for us to go over how to build these farms, but we do have a video in the description from Grooveman Dan. He made a great video explaining exactly how you want to build this. So if you are at this point in the video, you do want to get your farms going, you just want to follow that link in the description and make sure to pretty much just do exactly what he does in his video. Shout out to him, of course. Thank you so much. And anyways, another major thing that I want to touch on sooner than later is garden mods. The main one is called Sky Handy, and this will have many features to help out with visitors. It will allow you to see your best crop milestones for XP and a bunch of other quality of life features. Now, we do recommend that you explore this mod for yourself, as there are a lot of features that each person would find useful or maybe not. So it is linked in our Discord, as well as in the description there will be a link to the Discord for Sky Handy. Make sure you don't join any other links because they might not be safe. But if it is from our Discord, then it is a safe download. And the other reason that we're mentioning this now is because it has a feature that allows you to lock your mouse whenever you're farming, so it cannot move anywhere. And this is a good feature because whenever you are farming specific farms like this, it will actually require you to have your mouse at a certain angle. And if you move, it'll actually mess up the farm. So right now I have my spawn set to this specific angle. As you can see in the top left of my screen, it says -180.0. And I'm able to lock my mouse, so even if I'm like on my desk, it won't move around and I can farm this forever. Now, once you have this mega farm built, I do recommend that you get to farming 60. The farming fortune that you get from the farming level is really good, and it's also just something that you should not undervalue. Another 2 upgrades that you should make that you might already have are the Agaramu artifact, which is going to give you 1 farming wisdom, as you can see here, 1 farming wisdom. And as well as the yellow Abbey case, if you're not farming 60 yet, this will give you an extra 1.5 farming wisdom, so that's just free XP. Now, the best crop to farm for farming XP is going to be mushrooms, but I would recommend against that, at least until you're garden 15. I would hop around crops to hit milestones just so you can get there pretty fast, and then you can go to mushrooms for the rest of the way to 60. Farming mushrooms is also how you obtain burrowing spores, which is the item you use to reforge your lotus equipment. It is about 4 million coins per, and you'll get a couple, maybe 1 per hour, so it's just to free a little bit of extra money. Another thing that I want to mention is whenever you come to the hub and talk to Elizabeth right here, you will see on the account and profile upgrades, there is something called the Garden Farming Fortune upgrade. This is completely free to max out, but it does take a lot of time. It takes exactly 146 days of waiting to get this to plus 10 or plus 40 fortune, of course. You can also just pay to skip it, but I would recommend against that. Just get this started as soon as you can. You'll have to switch it like every 20 days towards the end. I just think it's free fortune. I don't know why you wouldn't do it. It's just a little bit annoying to remember to do it. You can also grab another bit of extra fortune by making sure that you are eating your cakes every 2 days. You can actually do /visit v1dd, and I have all the cakes right here, right by the spawn. You can just come over, click them. Specifically this brown cake right here, I believe. Yes, the brown cake is the one that's going to give you plus 5 farming fortune for 48 hours. Just gotta refresh it every now and then. Again, /visit v1dd. Please visit me. Oh my god, please visit me. Actually, don't include the desperateness. That was kind of weird at the end. Some extra farming fortune you can get is over at Anita. When you talk to her, you'll see this paper called Personal Bests, and to unlock this, it costs 2 gold medals and 64 Jacob tickets. And this will give you farming fortune based on the crop. So for example, as you can see, I have a personal best of 426,000 wheat collected during a wheat festival. So I'm getting plus 42 wheat fortune permanently. And this goes for every crop. Carrot, I'm getting plus 39 fortune. And some of these, you see, I haven't done a cocoa bean contest ever. But this is just a nice thing to have. I would recommend the first contest you can do, just getting as high of a personal best as you can. So then you get the permanent fortune for the rest of the time spent with that crop. We have pretty much made it through everything that you need to know about Garden, and now we are on the final stretch, which is just upgrading your gear to make sure that you aren't doing Garden inefficiently. Now the first armor, as mentioned, it should be the Rancher boots and any variant of the Fermento armor line, preferably obviously Fermento though. And this also follows suit for equipment, which is Lotus. For tools, you should have moved on to the 10 main farming tools, as we mentioned earlier. They should all be T3, of course. And whenever I'm saying T3, if you were confused, as you can see, the pumpkin dicer, what this will do is it'll literally just add farming wisdom and fortune. And by increasing the rarity, it also improves reforges. But with the hose, for example, the Euclid wheat hoe, as you can see, it adds extra perks. So towards the end, once you have a T3 wheat hoe, you will get collection analysis, which gives you plus 8 wheat fortune per digits of your collection, minus 4, which I know is kind of a mouthful of words, but as you can see, to simplify it, on my carrot collection, I have plus 40 fortune because my carrot collection is 9 digits, if that makes sense. So I have 9-digit carrot collection, it subtracts 4, so then it's 5 times 8, and you get 40 fortune. This is also a good time to mention Peridot gemstones, which are going to run you about 32 million coins for the perfect version, or 3 million coins, 4 million coins for the flawless version. This is just a gemstone that can be applied to most farming armor. It just gives extra farming fortune. I don't have any applied because I haven't farmed in a long time, and these are pretty recent update, but it can be applied to your hose, it can be applied to your armor. Just make sure that you have those on wherever you can. If you can't do perfect, just do flawless, because flawless are much cheaper. Now next up, we're going to talk about enchants. The perfect enchants on the tools go as follows. Now obviously first, there is harvesting or sunder 6, depending on if it's a hoe or an axe. Now what harvesting is going to do, harvesting 6 is going to cost you 2 mil from the bazaar. It's just going to give you extra farming fortune, pretty self-explanatory. The next enchant you will want is Replenish, which is going to cost you about 1.3 million coins, and this will break and replace crops whenever you break them. So whenever I farm wheat, it's going to just replant the seeds whenever I farm it. Next up, we have Cultivating, which can be bought from the bazaar or from the community center for bits. It's going to cost you 6 million coins if you don't have the bits for it. And this will actually level up based on how many crops you farmed. So at level 1, it gives you plus 1 farming wisdom and plus 2 farming fortune. But at level 10, it will give you plus 10 farming wisdom and plus 20 farming fortune. As you can see, I have Cultivating 10 on my carrot hoe. Next up, you will want Turbo Crop 5. And when I say crop, that is a pretty interchangeable word. Each different crop has its own enchantment. So on my carrot hoe, I have Turbo Carrot 5. You're just going to want a max out version. Again, just more farming fortune. There is a requirement for getting a silver in a carrot contest, but I don't think that's a very steep goal. So just, I guess, make sure that you do that before you apply it. But it's not going to cost much. As you can see, Turbo Carrot is going to run you... Turbo Carrot 5 is going to cost you 500k. Now, depending on your budget, you are also going to want to apply Dedication either 3 or 4. Dedication 4 is only 12 mil compared to the 3 mil that Dedication 3 is. This will just, again, give you fortune based on the amount of milestones that you have in that crop. So at level 3, it's going to give you plus 1, and at level 4, I'm pretty sure it's plus 2. So for example, if you have a maxed out crop at 46, this is actually going to give you, with Dedication 4, an extra 92 farming fortune. So in my opinion, very, very worth it. You also want to make sure that your hoe has Farming for Dummies applied to it, which is another thing like hot potato books. It can be bought 1.5 million coins per, and it can be applied 5 times, so that's an extra 5 farming fortune. It's a little bit expensive, but I'd say it's worth it. For your armor, you're going to want to make sure that you have the Pest Terminator enchant. At level 5, it's going to cost you about 20 million, and you will get plus 5 farming fortune as well as plus 10 bonus pest chance. Pest chance is really not the most important stat to worry about, because if you're starting Garden right now, you're going to max the bestiary way before you finish Garden. So, like, it doesn't matter. I guess it's a little bit of extra money, but if anything, they're just more inconvenient than they are helpful. So, use that at your own caution. Now, if you do care about pest chance, and you do want to get as many pests as possible, if you're an Iron Man, for example, you can make sure that you eat the wriggling larva. There are 5 of these that you can eat. They cost 1.5 million coins each, and each one gives you plus 2 bonus pest chance, as well as, I'm pretty sure, plus 3 Skyblock XP, or maybe it's plus 2. If you are like me, and you hate pests, and you don't want to deal with them, once again, over the desk, Skymart Pests, you can buy yourself a Pest Repellent Max for 40 copper, and this will make pests 4 times as rare for 60 minutes. You just got to spray it. It covers your entire garden. So you pretty much just don't have to deal with them for an hour. I don't know. This is up to you. Obviously, I would say don't do this until you have the bestiary maxed, but up to you. And then just to mention it again, make sure that you get your armor on Mossy as soon as possible. At this point as well, you should also come over to your desk and your crop upgrades, hopefully get them to at least 7. I think 8 is pretty reasonable as well, and then 9 is kind of where it gets super expensive. But 7 or 8, it's just free fortune, especially in the crop that you're farming. Like, if, for example, if you want to go for wheat 46, then make sure that you have that maxed out or close to. It's just free fortune. I don't know why you wouldn't do it. There are a few talismans that will give you farming fortune. The first one is the Relic of Power, which is a pretty new talisman. As you can see, it is a mythic, wherever it is, and it allows you to put gemstones in it. And this includes the perfect Peridot, so it gives you an extra 5 farming fortune, as well as all these other stats that you can see. Another talisman you can get is the Fermento artifact for 33 mil. It's going to give you 30 farming fortune, which is pretty significant. I'd recommend getting this as soon as possible as well. The atmospheric filter is another thing which during every spring will give you plus 25 farming fortune. During summer, it gives you plus 20 farming wisdom. So you can see all the stats here. It's only 11 mil. It's an epic talisman, or sorry, a rare talisman. It's recombobulated, but it's a very nice thing to have. Free fortune. It just free stats, you know, for 11 mil. Why wouldn't you get that? You can also get the Anita's artifact, which will grant you a random plus 25 farming fortune during Jacob's farming contest. And you can actually see which crop this is going to be. So, for example, if I come to the calendar and I look at like here, you'll see there's an extra farming fortune icon next to carrot. So that means I'll be getting the bonus on carrot during this contest. And it'll show you that on every contest. And a final stretch, and even an item that I don't have myself personally because I'm poor, is the Magic 8 Ball, which has a 1 in 5 chance every Skyblock season to give you plus 25 fortune and plus 1 wisdom. If you haven't started already, you should be getting Green Thumb on your equipment. Getting at least level 2 or 3 is probably the best for you, but level 5, because obviously level 5 is very pricey, but if you are planning on staying in Garden for a long time, I would eventually upgrade to fully level 5 because it is a lot of fortune. It adds up, but obviously I get why you might not want to spend all that much money on it, so at least get like level 2 or 3. Another source of fortune would be your plots. You want to unlock all of them. You don't actually have to clean them up to get the fortune, but you do have to unlock them. It's maybe like 200, 300 million coins to get all of them, and then it's just plus 3 fortune per every plot that you unlock, so that's nice. Another nice thing about the garden is that pests will actually spawn while you are offline. So if you go to bed for the night and you come back in like 10 hours, there will be all 8 pests on your island, and you can come and farm those for a little bit of bestiary, a little bit of XP, and drops. So just make sure that you're doing those. Even if you're not doing garden, just make sure you come here every 8 hours and you claim your offline pests. Another thing that I want to bring up is the Chimera 5 Daedalus Axe, which, as I mentioned earlier, is actually better for cocoa and mushrooms. It is the best farming tool. Now, this is an item that costs 2 billion coins, and it's also another item that I don't have personally, but you do use it for other purposes throughout the game. So if for whatever reason you have that sitting around, it is better to use with the Mushroom Cow because you will get extra fortune and extra strength. If you do decide to use this for cocoa beans, I do recommend going to Pat's Garden. He has a 2x5 section of plots to build a specific cocoa bean farm that is able to be replanted while you farm. During farming contests, if you do have the money to spend on it, you can get a Zoro's Cape. This costs 40 mil, and it is only better during farming contests. Give you a little bit of extra fortune and a chance to get extra medals. Some extra small upgrades you can make if you want to min-max are the truffles, which can be bought from the Chocolate Factory, 15 mil each. These give you plus 30 global fortune for 60 minutes, as well as a permanent plus 1 fortune. You can consume 5 of these for plus 5 permanent fortune. You can also go to the Carolyn in the Nether, which I will show you how to get to her if you spawn here in the Nether. And through here, up this ladder, you can talk to Carolyn, right? And she allows you to export carrots from, I think you can export carrots from the rift. There's also cocoa beans and pumpkins. They're all on the bazaar. As you can see, exportable carrots. I think there's expired pumpkins, which can be used to give you plus 12 pumpkin fortune. There's also fine flour, which can be used to get you plus 12 wheat fortune. And finally, supreme chocolate bars, which can give you plus 12 cocoa bean fortune. Chocolate fortune is a chocolate factory shop purchase, which will actually increase your cocoa bean fortune. This goes up to level 25, so you can permanently gain 25 fortune whenever you max this out. I don't know how expensive it is, but it's probably very expensive. And then finally, another small source of temporary fortune would be the Harvest Arbringer potion, which can be obtained from Maeve, I believe, the visitor. It costs 1 million coins, but for 25 minutes you get plus 50 fortune. It's very nice if you're going for like a PB or you're trying to get like a gold medal in a contest. You can use one of these, just extra fortune. And that is really it for garden progression. If you have watched through this entire video, you know pretty much everything you need to know about how to farm, how to get into it, what gear you need to use. And if you have any other questions for whatever reason, then please do leave them in the comments. We will try to respond to as many comments as possible. If this helped you at all, if you enjoyed the video, please do subscribe. Once again, we are calling in on 20,000 subscribers, and thank you so much.